Greetings, everybody, and welcome to the lead series. I'm your host for the day, Thomas Ayuaki, and on today's episode, we focus on the digital services for agriculture and the impact that it had in Laikipia County. Over the past 5 years, ACWICT, in partnership with UK AID or UK DAP, have been in the front lines of implementing the digital services for agriculture program that has had a main goal of increasing access and utilization of relevant agricultural content for sustainable agricultural and food security in Laikipia County and the larger part of the country. Throughout its implementation, we've had a consistent belief that what is key to us achieving our goal is an inclusive, digitally enabled agricultural transformation that could help achieve meaningful livelihood, improvement for agricultural small-scale farmers and pastoralists. So fast forward to where we are today, we boast of a program that's been able to reach out to over 50,000 farmers through our digital skilling program and over 500,000 through our awareness creation initiatives that have leveraged on digital and social media resources, county government-sponsored events, and skilling programs that have been championed by extension officers and champion farmers. So in what's the beginning of our documentation of the impact of the DSA program, we catch up with the former Director and Chief Officer of the Agricultural Ministry and champion farmer in Laikipia County, Mr. James Mungere, to shine a light on just how the program has impacted the agricultural community in Laikipia, the view on the integration of information and technology into the practice, and what we believe is the future if farmers countrywide can be able to embrace the power of technology and the opportunities it brings to the agricultural value chain. So welcome once again, and before I move forward, let me let my guest introduce himself.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tom, and thank you for hosting me here, and thank you for promoting digital agriculture. I'm James Mungere from Laikipia County, where I was the Chief Officer in the Department of Agriculture, Livestock and Fisheries Development. And we started this program some times back on the onset of COVID. So much more we'll discuss as we go on.
So I wanted us to kick off by you telling us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from? How did you get into agriculture, and what's the best thing about you practicing it for such a long period of time?
Thank you, Tom. It's a long story because we are born in the landscape of agriculture, but incidentally, our parents come from high rainfall areas, and we settled in Laikipia County, which is an ASAL area, semi-arid area. And over time, we had challenges because we adopted the technologies of agriculture practices from high rainfall area. And we had various successes, once in 3 years and failures in 4 to 5 years. And when we became of age, we decided to plunge ourselves in agriculture. And over time, it's a period of over 20 years or so, we have changed the landscape ourselves now that we are active farmers. And we have looked at what is suitable for the land that we have and the region that we are. Being ASAL is best for livestock production. That's what we are doing today. We are in dairy, we are in sheep and goat, we are in small ruminants. We are also in tree fruits. And we are also doing livestock pasture crops as a commercial crop production.
So this is where exactly in Nanyuki?
This is the area that is between the Mungere County in Kenya, Laikipia area.
Oh, okay.
And which most of the time, and even today, people still who practice high rainfall areas continue having crop areas. But a few of us who have adopted the suitability rating for crops and livestock that are suitable, our margins only shrink or expand, but we never make losses.
So what are some of the challenges you faced in your early years of getting into agriculture, and how did that shape your mindset moving forward?
You are very right, because when our parents were making decisions, there are things that we wanted to do, but somehow then the uptake was not as fast as we could have thought. And at the same time, now knowing that you're putting your money, then you have to ask yourself, am I going to put money and no changes coming in because they have no control. And land is not yours. If you want an animal, you do something, you have to get permission. But with the time, we persuaded them and they allowed us to do a bit of what we thought was going to happen. Slow but sure. But today, as we speak, most of the parents, our parents who are still surviving, and they have taken up the issue of change. The reason being that they're able to listen to their radios and listen about weather, listen about markets, good agricultural practices, and they're able now, that makes them relaxed. And that has made us now take up what we need to take. And with our age now, we have taken ICT with us in agriculture and using our mobile phones now. Yeah. And all the facilities like WhatsApp, SMS groups, and all that kind of thing. We are able to access platforms that possibly can give us an insight. For example, if you want to know what are the average prices for food crops or livestock, I just log into like Kenya Livestock Marketing System. I go to agricultural marketing systems. I go to weather. I go to Plantix, for example, to know what can I do with whatever I have. I also use photos and voice on my phone to ask even the community. Anybody who has experience on something like this, and able to communicate very well.
Okay.
Yes.
So before we go into the aspect of technology and the important role that it has played, what are some of the lessons you've learned, and how can we be able to, here in the present day, kind of use that? Because let's be very honest. For example, I come from a community where there's a lot of attempts to go into farming, but we don't necessarily have the patience and discipline that's needed to practice it at that level. So what are some of the lessons you've learned, and how can they be able to be relayed in this present day?
Thank you very much. It is true. And agriculture is a slow onset and slow-moving adoption. Because remember, here we are talking about food security, talking about your incomes and livelihoods. And you cannot just simply take it up as fast as you want to buy a car or you want to buy a shirt.
Yeah, yeah.
And because, for example, take a cow and you want to change maybe from one breed to another. If you breed a pure breed to the people, it can't last for more than 3 months because they have not learned how to manage it. If you use something like artificial insemination, it takes 9 months for the pregnancy, and then another 2 years for that cow to be lactating. So you have to be patient. However, what I've learned over time is that you can also learn from your neighbor or your farmer who is of like-minded and who possibly are ahead of you or who are thinking like you, and you're able to share a few things. Maybe you start and say, why don't we plant a pasture crop that we sow in these areas so that our animals can be fed on high yield and high quality pastures and fodder. And over then, you realize that you don't have to walk to see Mr. Tom, who is a farmer in 1 or 2 kilometers. You just pick a phone and possibly talk and see, or possibly put a video or something like that. Initially, our message passing was physical. You must be there.
Yeah, yeah.
You must use this language. You must be available this time. You must be there that time. And again, all of us, I think, as we started, and in any technology, we keep hands off and look at what's going to happen. So slowly, a person like me, I've been able to get myself what I've learned from our farmers, colleagues. I've also learned from other experience from elsewhere. And what I just do is to domesticate what I see to fit my area. Once in a while, you make a mistake because, like you say, you want to be very fast.
Yeah.
But then you burn your fingers, but you end up losing. Like recently, I lost a heifer that was top-notch, that possibly at its age, which was about 1.5 years, I could have sold it for about 80,000. But simple mistake that I did because I want to be fast.
Yeah.
There you are. But when I looked and I talked to my colleagues, other farmers like me, older than me, younger than me, they told me you shouldn't have done this. but I wanted the result very fast. So there is that bit that you have to wait and move one step at a time, and also learn from those who are ahead of you, and they are in the same environment, and they are able to tell you what they have gone through. And slowly you realize there's that bit of physical communication, and now we have learned that there's another bit for technology.
Yeah.
That makes things a bit faster, and at your convenience.
Because you seem to be placing a lot of emphasis on information seeking. Do you think that's the difference in this modern day? Do you think that's the difference between succeeding and failing in the agricultural practice, specifically from a small scale point of view?
Yes, Tom, I think that it is because you see, we have no time to read books. We have no time to go to libraries or do that kind of thing. And remember, there's nothing much that is changing, but it's only doing it a different way. For example, if I was going to walk to Mr. Tom's farm, and remember, majority of us are small scale. Small scale in the context that we are around 5 acres to, or say below 10 acres. That's what most of us are.
Relatively small scale, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. In some areas, even 10 acres looks like large scale. So, and we also devoid of capital to develop. So, if I was going to walk to your farm, which is about, say, 1 kilometer or 2, and that's why I think where I can learn, you can imagine I'm going to take about 2 and fro journey. It will take me about 2 to 3 hours walking.
Oh, yeah.
If I don't take a motorbike, if I don't take my bicycle. But if I use my phone, it will take me maybe like 2, 5, 10 minutes to talk. And then I can be doing something, coming to see and validate with what you're doing, or inviting you to come and do that. It is even much faster and convenient looking at testimonies that other farmers have done, and they have been able to succeed. Then you ask yourself, why am I not succeeding? What should I do to succeed? I have seen Tom doing this. Then ask Tom, where did you get example maybe for an equipment or a tool? And Tom will tell me, this is available. But in the meantime, you can borrow mine, I'll be using, and I can show you I got mine. So information and appropriate information at the right time is the key thing now.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. And on the community approach, do you see that in other counties? Because I know we were speaking outside the studio about your experience, which spans over 25 years working within the agricultural sector. So do you see that communal approach being reflected in different counties that you've worked in or visited in recent years?
If I look back, when I was young, and most of us were young, and you have come from this agricultural background, you remember we could all, from one village, we could go and just help one household to till on a weekend. And we go on the next weekend, we go to another household, like that. But with the time, the extension approaches that have come with the government, they have come developing just single farmers, which has created individualism. Again, then you're not even producing enough to control a market or even to supply a market. And now with the new approaches, you have come back and saying, aggregate together, come together, do things together. Because you are able to leverage on your numbers to attract either buyers or sellers. And what I see in many counties, or generally in Kenya now, the approach that the government is using is common interest groups. Maybe what we call CIGs. So you may have those who grow maize, they are together, those who do dairy, they are together. Ultimately, that calls for big aggregations in terms of cooperatives or aggregators, whatever you call them, but they are joining together. So possibly, if you think of like dairy, they are able to have a common cooler that they can all have their milk maybe in the evening. And you don't have to wait for the person with a van to come and get the milk. You just take it to the cooler, go home. Or you come in together as a circle, and then you're pulling together, and this circle can be able to supply you some inputs, and you can pay when you're being paid your milk because you pay through the circle. So that is there. Or what now, the challenge that we have is security. To be secure, because some of these aggregation points, sometimes they have become areas of misuse.
where people take advantage.
Exactly. So what we need now here is to strengthen the governance.
Yeah.
And bring back the order trust that used to have. And that way then we can be able to have economic operations. Yes.
Yeah, because I like the approach of grouping them based on their common interest. I think that can be a significant step up if we see it being implemented on a national scale, especially for some of the counties where maybe there's a lot of fertile land, there's a lot of manpower, but just that information or knowledge and insight on how they can be able to do it is where we struggle a little bit. So I wanted to touch a bit about your experience working for the county government of Laikipia. So what in particular inspired you to take on that role? And, what were some of the essential services that you felt the farming community needed to be able to elevate their socioeconomic activity to the next level?
You see, as a civil servant, we transitioned from the national government. Agriculture is almost fully devolved function.
Yeah.
And as such, among I think about 8 of them, one of them being health, is that being in that department, we got seconded to the county government. So that's how we found ourselves in the county government. And we just continued to support the county government as secondment officers, as the county government was continuing to employ their staff. Number one is that my parents came from Mungere County, where they were doing coffee, they were doing tea, and exotic dairy animals. So when we went to Laikipia, where now I was born, we had to change and be able to deal with the situation as it is. Of course, we did the initial mistakes of thinking that everything would work the way it was working before. Yeah. So that inspired me, and that's why I found myself in bias of livestock and natural resources. Because Laikipia, there is an interface, an interaction of wildlife and human beings. And there's a lot of conflict on crop destructions, wildlife predations, and even human loss. So I got spared and said, this is what I need, because back at Mungere County, farms are very small, they are very tiny.
Oh, okay.
And the weather was also very hostile, cold and wet most of the time. But Laikipia has a distinct weather, dry and wet season. Yeah. And as boys, again, we also enjoyed going on the weekends to hunt rabbits and deers, and that made it more fun.
Yeah.
So then we said we can do more as we grew, and we saw our parents do what they do. And we got interested and said, this is one thing that we need to do, among other things. So I joined Nairobi University, Kabete campus, where agriculture is embedded. And after graduation, now I got my first appointment to the district of Elgeyo Marakwet. And from there, then I was posted to Wajir district. From there, I worked in Garissa district and Northeastern province. I did Isiolo. I've done Mandera on acting capacities. And then came back now to Central Province. And eventually going to Nyandarua, and then Samburu, and then now to Laikipia, where we found ourselves at the moment. So we have gained experiences, and we have different communities, different cultural practices. And I can say Laikipia is endowed, and it is, to me, I have not seen a good county for livestock production like Laikipia, as it is. As you see now, almost 3/4 of that land is commercial ranching.
3/4 of the land in
Laikipia is under ranching.
Okay.
And those ranches are almost predominantly run and managed by the Kenyans of white descent. And us now, where both farms is the cooperative. Now we've acquired like 5 or 10 acres.
Yeah.
So then we said, no, we have gone to university, we have land, we have been doing extension, we want to do this work. We found ourselves in the department. Now we also say we also have to tell ourselves what we need to do.
Yeah.
So that is what created this interest, because of the background, the training, and the exposure and deployments that we have enjoyed over time. Yeah.
Yeah, because before I go into the interest bit, there was a time we were moving from Nanyuki to Nyahururu, and I remember one of your colleagues telling us to essentially count the number of minutes. And we were traveling at around like 80 kilometers per hour. And so we took a timer, and I think it went for around 20 to 30 minutes. And at the 30th minute mark, they told us that, that distance that we've traveled, that land belongs to so-and-so. Yeah, so it seems as if, so how do you, maybe before I go into the question, how do you, or how have you been able to correlate and coexist within that particular space with some of the white settlers? And do they find themselves also, leveraging in the information and knowledge you've learned in how they can be able to grow their farms? Or how does that work in general? Yeah.
Yes, you see, our parents, some of them, a majority of them, were earning livelihood from working in those farms. That's number one.
Yeah.
And number two is that they appreciated that for you to gain from this dry weather. And remember, all that land is fenced with barbed wire.
The big ranches now.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they run kilometers and kilometers. That investment is dead investment. You don't go getting, at the end of the year, you cannot go and reap any harvester. But they protect maybe your wildlife, and they protect your animals, and also they market your land. So that we got used to that. Secondly is that, like my case now, I have an experience. I have a number of them were my friends, where I acquire my breeding stock for small stock, that is sheep and goat. There's one who has been doing conservation agriculture over time, many, many years. And one day, he asked me, how are you doing? I remember this was after El Nino phenomena. And I said, I think I'm going to quit. He said, why are you quitting? It is simply that you're not doing the right thing. I said, I do everything right. He said, no. I think it was heading to December. And then he told me, after you harvested, now let me come and see your land. I said, welcome. So that was now before El Nino. And he told me, if you want to know when you have to plow, this is the simple mechanism that you have to do. I knew it from college, but I thought it doesn't work.
Yeah.
So it comes with a trowel, like the one masons use, or a spade that is smaller, and you step on it, on the spade part of it, and push it on the ground. And then scoop.
Yeah.
And then you're left with a wall like this. And then you look at the column of water. Where is the water level? Then it tells me, if it is below 6 inches, don't plow. If it's above 6 inches, you can plow. Yeah? Because what it means that you turn so much of this dry land upside down and expose this little that has water upside down.
Upside down, yeah.
So it's like losing 2 or 3 seasons of water. So, and I followed that. And for the first time, I used to think I'm doing so good. I was doing wheat that time, about 5-6 acres. And I was doing about, I was getting about 12. And everybody said, James, you're doing well. But when I did what he did, number one is that I kept the animals off, and any residue from the farm, I was feeding the animals away from the grazing area. Because we normally put them there to trample and they compact the soil. Secondly, then I use his timing and I use his machines. I did the rip, you rip, use chisels to rip the ground. And then plow, then one harrow, then plant. Even without me doing anything else, I had already saved the money that I was using before by those operations. Then when I planted, I saved it because I used to use to about 100 kilos. I used about 60 or 70 kilos. And then I used fertilizer less. And then my crop was growing, started sprouting even before the rains came. Yeah. And because it was El Nino, and even post El Nino, I was doing 18 to 20 bags from 10 to 12. And I've saved a lot from the input.
Yeah.
So we learn together, because then they learn, because they are surrounded by small-scale farmers. What do we have to share with them in terms of information to avoid influx and infiltration or dependence on their land? Yeah. Because the only division that we have with these large-scale farmers is a fence. The sun is the same, the rain is the same. The management is the difference.
Yeah.
So we benefited from that. They also benefit from us to see how they can be able to help and possibly be able to advise on what they can support the farmers. For example, you have a common interest group, and you have your 10 acres, or I have my 5 acres, another one has 2, we can do pastures and produce hay. And this one can be able to be aggregated, and they can help us sell, or even cushion ourselves wherever they need it. So it's mutual. But yeah, there's no really the parasitic kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice to see that coexistence really take place, even with some of our more foreign neighbors. But you touched on something earlier around technology and how you're using it now. So in your capacity as a county official, was that one of those things where you really, really felt passionate about in terms of making sure that the agricultural community, especially in Laikipia County, took into it and were actually using it to be able to improve the agricultural practice? So was that something that you had a keen interest on, or were there others again that you also tried to push at that point?
Initially, what I personally had in mind was about a call center, because I have heard about it in India and other places. Yeah. But then I was directed to, there's a platform in Nakuru that is called Mkulima Young. Yeah, Mkulima Young. So people call and say, I have this issue, I have this, and then you are directed to the most closest extension officer near to you. But you see, it takes time. It takes time. Yeah. And when I reached out to Nakuru, they told me they had gone to India, they have learned about that. But I still felt it is still taking time. There's a lack of time that you are not able to access. And then the information you get is the information that you have been getting, maybe from old literature and that kind of thing. Yeah. But then slowly with time, I learned from friends that you have platforms that you can access information on real time. And then I later learned also that you can use your laptop or your computer. That time there was nothing like telephone other than just calling and asking something. But with time, we interacted with the UK officials who had visited. We met somewhere in a workshop. And I was told, no, there are new things that we can do for extension. I said, look, what? Using your mobile phones, you can use messages, you can use photos, you can use SMSs. I said, oh, that's nice, because then the county governments are under heavy weight of wage bill. Yeah. And again, there's no support in extension enough to make an extension officer to be at the right time at the right place. Yeah,
because I remember you talked of one extension officer
to almost 6,000 farmers, which is way beyond the recommended standards.
Yeah.
But then we said, okay, what do we do? Extension officers have phones. They may not have the airtime. But then when we met this officer, I said, don't worry, let's come and see, because we think majority of your farmers are not even aware that you can use the phone. They're not even aware that the phones have anything else other than sending money in M-Pesa and messages. Said, fine, let's try. I think that's how we joined in, and I remember she was Mrs. Mwangi. And they also, Constantine, the SEO here, joined them. And we agreed we're going to try that. And we tried that, and we made arrangements. Surprisingly, you're working after hours. Yes, because during the day with the county governments, depending on who is the governor, you could be running over almost like 12 hours. We agreed and we met and said, let's try, and we tried. And true to the I don't want to call them allegation, true to the suggestion they had, that was what was happening. Majority of our farmers are aged farmers, the education levels are down. Majority of people on the land making decisions what needs to be done where are women. Our youth are exiting from school, they are hanging back at home. And we found low-lying fruits in that. Yeah. So he said, these young men and women are good on these funds. All people have the money and the land. Yeah. And here we have the extension officers. Can we be able to do what we call focal area? For example, you say, you can divide, not physically, but through settlement, and they say focal area 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we champion some value chains. depending on what we think is best for that land and the climate, and put them under common interest groups. And then from there we test and say, because we meet with these farmers once in a certain frequency, can they be able to use the phones? Unfortunately, our technical officers didn't know how to do it. Even simple thing as possibly even opening an email address.
We thought the extension of.
Yes, we thought it was obvious. Then we said, no, let's do something. That's how, from this research, then ACWICT was wanted to come to Laikipia. And then, I don't know to call it a disadvantage or an advantage. Around 2020, when you're onset of doing what we want to do, COVID came in.
Yeah.
No visiting, no movement, or we are curtailed. But the stomachs after it.
Yeah.
We have to pay bills.
You have to pay bills.
Yeah, all this kind of thing.
Yeah.
Then that's how now I was able to support this initiative. And with a few officers who believed like what I believed, we are able to give it an opportunity.
So, yeah, I wanted to give you an opportunity to talk about those stumbling blocks because, from what we gathered through the survey that you've just mentioned, some of the surprising figures was that, the uptake of technology to be even used to access information and knowledge about agricultural practice. I think the percentage is around 1%. I think 1% of the farmers in Laikipia County were actually using these resources to be able to improve their agricultural practices. So, and what's surprising me is that even in our conversation, we've talked about extension farmers not necessarily having those skills to be able to go and even cascade it to the farmers. So what do you think were the stumbling blocks at that point in time?
The extension, as it were, from the onset and from independence, we relied on extension officers using motorbikes and vehicles, visiting in open public meetings or workshops or seminars. So nobody believed that there's another better way that can be done. Again, there is also fear, technology is not easily adopted very fast because people will still believe that I must see you, you must see me. Yeah. And even from our own, as extension officers, me being one of them, we have fear that would this have an impact because you need to be there physically. But after we did the initial training and sensitizing our own technical staff and champion farmers, because we also learned that farmers are able to learn better and more comprehensively when they are getting from their fellow farmers. Yeah. And the technical officers need just to make sure that the information is right. So it's like you're multiplying the capacity. Yeah. So it's a question of fear that was there. How do I use a phone? And I think after initial training that we did and we got the champion farmers and the extension officers right who are in the wards where the action takes place, which was about, I think, about 95 or so. Yeah. We targeted 100, but I think we ended up getting about 95. Yes. Yeah. So it's from there that people have testimony, and they when they are meeting and they are sensitized, they see, it can work. Others tried to see if I used, say, an app like Good Practices for Agriculture that was being developed by Carol that we have in our Play stores, is that you could see with the vernacular languages, and you could hear and listen and hear. And you could still start off what you need to do while you're waiting for the next step, for the extension officer to have that. Yeah. The fear that the extension officers had, as usual, was, now that I'm not able to go out, am I still going to get an allowance? Oh, yeah. Yeah, and because going out means an allowance, you work and get allowance. And then, would farmers still be able to get the same information if I use the mobile phone? Yeah. And can I trust the mobile phone and apps with my information? Can I be able to trust a weather platform like LAOP and COOP? Can I be able to trust a platform that is like the one that predicts for prices? It was a question of fear of unknown. And that fear was more evident in extension officers than the farmers. Yeah. So after now we put the two teams together. Number one, that became demystified. Yeah. It can work, and we started slowly. Up to where if you remember, we had farmers who are selling their livestock. We have farmers who are buying fertilizers online. Yeah. We have farmers who are able to to be able to know a plant disease, and they're able to prescribe on the community in the plantics that you can try this and this and that. And then they're able to buy and access some of these inputs. The other part of the government which was there was this mode of extension, it was not very evident in many places. And they were still wondering because, you know, there's issues of internet connectivity. There is a cost of internet in terms of voice and even data. There was also the issue of asking ourselves, can we be able to sustain this if we started? But those who believe that it can work, we took a leap of faith. And from us, we're able now to be able to move with the farmers and extension officers. And as we talk today, most of the meetings that are done, even socially and even for the departments, they are done online. People are valuing that. And many of them would just say, oh, we could have done this yesterday, not today. But the issue now was, how do you build that confidence? And how do you leverage on the existing devices and technology? Now, as we talk, I think it's a question of just now trying to enhance it.
Because I consider that as one of the biggest impacts that the program had. Obviously, there's reaching out to the farmers, there's making sure that the content that they're accessing is actually of relevance, but also making sure that extension officers, who are the lifeblood of any agricultural, ecosystem, also had those skills to be able to, cascade information, cascade knowledge that they had about how they can be able to improve their practice. I think that for me is up there with everything that we achieved. So with that being said, I think one of the key things I remember about first meeting you when we were participating in the validation meeting was that you were very energetic, you were very inquisitive, you wanted to make sure that the entire process from a digital skilling point of view made sense to the farmers. So when you look back at the moment where you were first introduced to the DSA program, in your capacity as a county official and a champion farmer, what expectations did you have about the overall impact, and what in particular were you interested in seeing change?
Yes, yeah, very true. You see, you are now moving from it's like moving from a manual car to automatic car. You don't believe that the car can still move on if you don't have a clutch pedal and you don't have the other gadgets. And of course, like me now as we speak, I've never driven an automatic car.
To this day?
To this day.
Are you sure, Mr. Mungere?
Yes. So if you let me automatic car, most likely you're going to meet me there. I'll have taken another route. Because I like that engagement,
You already.
Yes. So what happens is now it is the same with what you're discussing here.
Yeah.
And we possibly have to, because of fear, agriculture is not insured, so you would fear to put a lot of investments using a certain knowledge that possibly is not widely shared with others. Yeah. But what we did is that the interest that we created is one that we said, start small, grow big. Yeah. Start small, grow big. And slowly we started with the farmers and with the extension officers. And we tried with, for example, like looking like weather. Yeah. And I remember as we started, the Kenya Agricultural Observatory platform that talked about weather. And we domesticated that for Laikipia, which we called Laikipia Agricultural Observatory platform.
Yeah.
Is that you could know within a radius of about 3 kilometers, you could know the weather from where you are. And most likely that weather is what's going to be around you where you are. And remember when you are like last year, 2021, 2022, we had people are not sure whether to plant or not.
Yeah.
And then we used this platform for the Laikipia Agricultural Observatory platform. And those who followed, They planted as advised, and though the rainfall didn't come as expected, but they had some yield. Those who didn't use that and never used the advisory that was given there, they went as usual, total crop failure, and even losing livestock because of lack of water and even pastures. So what I could possibly say at this point in time is that everything, like you can see, even in government today, is now going digital. That saves a lot of labor, a lot of time that you could do something else. So agriculture, being what it is, and is a livelihood dependent households, is that we can be able to access. Like now, the WhatsApp group that we made for the champion farmers and technical officers, it still exists. And people are able to post issues that they think is our concern, things that they think it is new, and they're able to discuss and be shared. You can imagine at a click of the button, over 95 people who are on the front line get over 500,000 people within a day or two, they have the same information. This would have taken an extension officer, I don't know how many years to get, not months, years, to get to these farmers. Looking at the ratio of 1 to 4,000 or 5,000, it could have taken a lot. So it's now we are at an interface, and now that most of us are able to even to get IDs, telemedicines, and that kind of thing, we are now enjoined into the same adoption of technology. The only issue that we have now in agricultural extension is that most of the farmers that are very active and have much resources possibly don't have time for this technology. But I was surprised one day, we went and found an old lady, and she said, after seeing all what you're doing from a younger lady, she said, this is what you can get. Yes. After I sell my crop this season, I'm going to buy a phone. Then, even if I don't do it, they say, the one you sweep, if I don't have this one for doing like this, I'm going to buy one, then they can be doing it on my phone, not for me to see in their phone. So when my children come from school, they can see and they can take it up. So it's now that we are in that switch of technology. And I believe that if we went to assess today, I think things will be much different than they were last year.
So was that what you envisioned in a nutshell? Just high uptake of technology and with that, leveraging on the same resource to be able to access information, increased market access, and all the other different ways in which technology impacts the agricultural practice. Was that what you had envisioned as being the end goal of the UK DAP program?
Yes, in theory. Yes, in theory. Because again, after even introduce technologies or inputs or messages, again, it's a farmer voluntary to adopt and whatever rate. Now that here it involves, you have to get airtime, sometimes connectivity is a problem. I didn't envisage that we could have gone how we went. Simply because from my extension point of view and experiences, is that farmers are slow adopters. We didn't know that if there is value, preposition on whatever you're doing, and it's appropriate, it's convenient, farmers, even among themselves, like we trained, they could still enhance others to do the same. But I expected that to be done, but not at the rate that which we measured at the evaluation that came out to be. I also didn't expect the technical officers, the extension officers at the ward level, to have supported that. But fortunately, they also did, even with the fear that we had alluded earlier, because it saved them time. It also saved them on use the same time for one farmer, and here you can use the same time for 100 times more farmers along the way. And I found even some of them are using their own airtime from the pocket to do what they're supposed to be assisted by government. So, to me, it's that I didn't expect to have a large adoption, but out of evaluation, we found that being to be the case. Why? People are using M-Pesa, people are using whatever else. If you are calling for a meeting, you are using a WhatsApp group. If you want to do something, you are creating a group for all these kind of things.
Yeah.
Then we created groups for those farmers.
Yeah.
And we had admins, and we had young people who are able to help. And they are able to do for them what they are not able to do. And the elderly farmers were also able to do what the young farmers are not able to do. And the young people found their niche, and the old people found their niche within the value chain out of the technology now that they have developed. Yeah.
Yeah, so again, when you still go back and look at the impact that the program had in phase 1 and phase 2, do you believe, or do you strongly believe that the approach and program design that ACWICT had in terms of not just focusing on digital skilling alone, but making sure that, for example, they put together all the agricultural platforms that were, are relevant to the farmers, as well as localize some of them so that everybody could be able to access them without any sort of a sense of language barrier. Then after that, go into the digital skilling aspect. Do you think that approach played a significant role towards ensuring the success that you guys have been able to see in such a short period of time, by the way?
Yes, because, all the approaches that we did with ACWICT were group-oriented.
Yeah.
And why? Because we all have different opinions about something.
Definitely.
But at the end of the day, we validate one or two, and we move on with that.
Yeah.
Then if you put a progression, say Tom is a farmer, Tom has 5 friends, tells them about it. The friends have 5 friends, tells 5 friends.
Yeah.
You see that progressive conveyance of information. Again, also, we also minimize and effectively use resources.
Yeah.
Because if you use a small group, you have a hall, you have time. It's the time you use and the money used for conferences for a few people can do for even 5 times more. Again, we bring more actors at the same time on the same floor under one roof. That also became good because sometimes actors will compete and they don't create synergy because I'm the best.
Yeah.
So sometimes what we did is to get, if you're strong in one field, you leave it, all of us leave it and leave it to you. We play a complementary role. And we all went with what is our strength.
Yeah.
And that is what ACWICT really enabled us to see. Okay. Instead of competing, we can be able to be together and do more. Because then I'll do my 100%, you do your 100%, the other person does the 100%.
Yeah.
Unlike before where I could possibly do 60% because of another area that has drained my resources.
Okay.
And that is the area I take it 100%.
Yeah.
So that was a good one. And if you remember, in our approach for sensitization and training of farmers, we called for open discussions, open meetings, which also worked very well because it also created confidence. Because if I see Tom, whom I know, and I hear from Tom, and Tom hears from me and hears from somebody else, we are able to have this after service connections that we do. Saying, how did you find it? How did you do it? Then you're able to create synergy, even as farmers.
Okay. So just how impactful do you think the putting together of the agricultural platforms, I believe you call them GAP, and localizing of that content, how impactful do you think that was in the large scale of things?
Yes, GAPs is good agricultural practices that have been validated by CARO. Yeah. CARO is a national institution that is mandated to do research, package research, and take it out for adoption to the farmers. Yeah. We had, initially we did 3, then 4, we did 7, we did 10, we did 12. Now I think we must be somewhere around 18.
These are
the good practices.
The good practices.
With value chains that we felt ourselves, not CARO, that we felt ourselves, because CARO has so many of them. Yeah. So we sought what is good for us, what we think can make economic difference, what is suitable with us, and what possibly we know about market. Yeah. And all these were put under one platform. And were put, initially we had 3 languages, Kiswahili, English, and Kikuyu. Then later we expanded to Maasai.
Oh, okay.
We did Maasai.
This was in phase 2?
Phase 2.
Oh, okay.
Because phase 1 we
I
did...
left it at English, Kiswahili and Kikuyu.
Yes.
Oh.
And what was interesting that you don't do much. It's just on a touch on a button, an icon just on your phone.
Yeah.
And you're able to change that. And accessing it is easy because it's on Play Store.
Yeah.
And that also enabled people because I think if you hear something for the first time from a PlayStation and it's in your... It's something that you never thought it could happen. For example, like rabbit keeping, beekeeping, dairy, pasture, that kind of thing, because we selected ourselves and validated them. And then you can switch to your own language, your own mother tongue.
Yeah.
That also was very exciting.
Yeah, it's easier to convince somebody who's here for the first time.
And then why we did English, Kiswahili, and Kikuyu is because those are initially the predominant communities there.
Yeah.
But later we added the Maasai because we have the whole sub-county that is Maas speaking.
Yeah.
Maas speaking. And that's where we get our honey, our beef, our sheep, our goats, and of course the medicinal plants.
Yeah.
So being under one platform, we at a point where we said, can we have one dashboard where whether the gaps, the agricultural good practices, and anything else can be put all the platform together, so that when I just click, I choose from there. I don't have to keep on clicking many things on the phone.
Different pages, yeah.
Exactly. So at the end of it, we by the end of the second phase, we didn't succeed in doing that. But I hope it will be another opportunity. The first thing we need to do is probably put them under one roof. And like we have this, the Laikipia Wakulima Market, the one-stop shop.
Yeah, yeah.
All are there, so you're able to sell and see input and output relationships and who is doing what. But much work is done. What is left now is to consolidate those efforts under one platform. Yeah. Then you have one dashboard that you can do that. But that helps a great deal.
Yeah, yeah. Because I'll be very, very honest. I learned a lot from that process. I was one of those people within the organization who was like, localizing the content. Is it really going to get us to where we need to bring in the platforms together? But I think what I love about this engagement between the two partners is that it wasn't one way. We learned a lot from each other. You educated us on the importance of localizing the content and even making sure that we bring it to one place. And then I'm thinking around phase 3, if there's one thing I'm excited about is exploring opportunities around how we can be able to create that one-stop shop for all of the services. Yeah. So just how impactful do you think the intervention was? And did you see an immediate cultural shift in the way the farming community integrated technology into the agricultural practice?
There was. And I could see like one community that is pastoral, agro-pastoral. And they were struggling doing the horticulture, and mostly they were doing cabbages and tomatoes. They had issues to get timely information and advices. But when they got created awareness and sensitized on use of ICT, for the first time they recorded good yield, because we're able to source good materials for planting and using good practices for husbandry for their crops. They were also able to connect, instead of having middlemen, or what people call brokers. They were able to sell almost to the end of the value chain, the person that will finally take it to the table, which means they got more money, and the losses and they incur due to late in planting and husbandry, they were able to change that. The other thing that we have seen is that we found a group that they were like livestock, for example. You have to go to the market and buy. But then when they did a WhatsApp group, and they had about, I think, 100 or 50, something like that, and they wanted to sell, they didn't know what to do, and they're struggling with the local market, which is about 80 kilometers from Nanyuki town. Then somehow somebody in West Pokot saw that, and they asked from the office, do you know these people? Is it true they are selling this? Yes, that's what we want. They were able now to deal with them inbox, and the county government of West Pokot. They were able to buy all those rams. And then thereafter, we had Samburu County, and they had also posted something to do with bulls, Boran bulls.
Yeah.
And they were able to sell almost like 60. Normally that will take about a month to dispose.
Yeah.
And it was like what you taught us about end-to-end, the e-commerce.
The e-commerce models.
Yes, consumer to consumer.
Yeah.
And that they were very happy. There was another team that also wanted fertilizer. At this peak, our fertilizer is going at 7,000.
Yeah.
They were able to get to the platform for Toyota Kenya, which I didn't know Toyota Kenya can sell fertilizer.
Yeah, I'm hearing that for the first time.
Yes, and they ordered through Toyota Kenya. And they were delivered up to their doorsteps. And it was cheaper, convenient, and there were no hassles of buying and wasting time.
So Toyota Kenya has an agricultural platform.
I think they do, because they said they got it from there. Then another lot, they want to sell maize. Normally you find the middleman will come, and possibly they buy with the lowest price that they can squeeze the farmer. But these farmers were able to connect with the millers, and they sold straight to the millers. So you can see the value added cost that is there was a benefit to them.
Yeah.
Another lot we found is that farmers who didn't know how to plant, and there is a platform that's from Caro that you can be able to install from your Play Store, and it can give you the best 5 crops that you can do in your area.
Yeah, based on weather patterns.
Exactly, because they have all that consideration.
Yeah.
So you see now, those are kind of things that now people know, because you may find that you have been given 3, 4, 5, and maybe it's only one that you are doing. The rest are out of the scope of Caro.
Yeah.
Then the other thing is that people found is to join into groups so that they can be able also to meet and discuss.
Yeah.
And now online meetings now, even among farming community, is no longer strange.
Yeah, that groups of interest for me is something that really needs to be reported or highlighted. I love the idea of just putting them into groups and sharing that information in real time. Though my question is on how about the pastoralist? Do you think the program impacted them the same way that maybe the regular farmers had, or do you think there's still space and opportunity for us to be able to work on models that specifically address their challenges?
Yeah, as usual, pastoralists are unique in their land use system because they have to keep moving, and sometimes they are out of reach from everybody else.
Yeah.
Yet the value chains that they're able to develop, like apiculture, which is beekeeping, like the mutton, that's from sheep.
Yeah.
Chevoni from goats, and beef, and from what you can also almost say they are organically produced because we don't have contaminants as we may have in other places. And they also have other things of value that they can be able to get a livelihood from them. So to me, I think that is, as you have earlier alluded, there's an opportunity, because many of them will not. Because like now, it will be a dry season. These people are moving. If they are focused and they were able to put like farmers, because they also move in groups, they're able to take advantage of that. Because what I know today, many of them are having these good telephones, and they use that to know how the market is behaving. But it has not been used to access good practices to enhance their productivity. That is digitally supported and climatically suitable with the climate change. Yeah.
So if we can build on that, what have you seen in terms of applications that have been used today by the farmers in Laikipia County? What are some of the applications that have really made their way into the agricultural mainstream?
There are a number of them, and one is the one for the market, online market, Laikipia Wakulima Market. It has become very, very active recently.
Yeah, which you've co-founded, but we'll get there. Uh-huh.
And then the other one is like the one for what we call plant health. Plant health is the plantics, because then you just you just get to a plant, and you don't have really to do that when the plants are not looking good, but it helps you to diagnose slowly so that you can, on the onset of a problem, from diseases to water deficiency to nutrient deficiency or excess, you can be able to detect from the plant. So just get there and do a photo,
Okay.
and you're able to do that. So, and it's also going to recommend what kind of chemical or organic actions that you need to take,
Okay.
and even give you the chemical ingredients that you can keep.
So if there's water deficiency, then it
will
gives
tell you.
advice on, okay.
That these are the problem here is the wilting here is caused by water deficiency. You need to water your plants, and if you don't water, these are the consequences. This kind of thing. Then if there are some pests that you cannot see with your eyes, but it can detect, taking a closer photo of things like leaves or shoots.
Yeah.
And then it tells you what you need to do. You can imagine now, if you have to call somebody like Lucy, who is your extension officer, and they tell you, I'm not available until next week, and your plant is getting sick, and you need to tackle that. So you lose.
Yeah, by the way.
You lose a great deal. But now here you get, but if there's an issue that is not been integrated within the plantix, they have another option they call Ask the Community. And you post that to the community. And then people will tell you what they have used. Some will tell you, I've used ash, I've used pilipili, I've used all this kind of thing.
Oh, so the Ask the Community is a social
function
within plantix.
Within plantix. Because some of the issues that we get, possibly they have not been researched on.
Yeah.
But somebody has done something, and they have been able to be successful. Then the other one is the one for weather again. It was very good until recently. It was not working very well.
Yeah.
But that also helped. Many farmers were really relying on that. The other one is also the one I said earlier, identification of your suitable crops that you need. I hope they'll do one for livestock as well.
Oh, yeah. This is, which one is that Lao?
No. This is for Carol. It's within good agricultural practices. So you can, you just get your location, and you feed it, and then they'll tell you the best 5 or 6 crops that you can do that are suitable for your area.
Okay, because LAUP is to do with weather advisory. You're talking about planting.
The planting says.
Yeah, okay.
There is also another one that is there called Plant Identifier. It's also on the Play Store. You may go and find a plant, and for some reason or the other, you want to know about it. Take a photo again, post it in the Plant Identifier. It will tell you some of them are medicinal plants, some of them are poisonous, some of things. So you get to know all these kind of things. You can imagine you're calling your extension officer who may not also know. Yeah. And unless you go to the very old men, and some of them now, possibly because of lifestyle, they are not attached with agriculture. They could be in town. And they may not have possibly taken care of that because maybe at that time they were living, it was not an issue. And now it's an issue now. So we have all those. So we have also said that you can use your Google machine. Ask anything.
Yeah.
And everything. But as long as you identify the site you are getting is secure for you. Don't go to Wikipedia, because some of the stories that people tell.
User-generated.
Exactly. So those are the kind of things now farmers have known. The other one is now linking, like, for example, nobody now is carrying cash, hard cash in the pocket. They'll tell you, get in M-Pesa or any other application that you can do that can keep money, and straight away they post it in their bank account. See? So that has made it easier, and people don't have problems in now operating. Because me, I have my M-Pesa in the bank. I'll draw money, put in M-Pesa, pay you get paid, do the same, and you put to the bank. Right? Then again, you're also doing small tradings. Some of them possibly are small ones, maybe like 2,000, 3,000 within. Those ones you trade with M-Pesa, and then where you're going to buy your foodstuffs, it's all the same. So slowly, with time, they're expanding, and I'm just hoping we get the opportunity for phase 3 is to look at how it can be self-propagating and going without support of external support. People get interest, and possibly if the young people can get an opportunity for employment by bringing people together, and they're able to earn a small fee and do for them, that'd be very good. because at the end of the value chain, you find young men, that's what they like. Yeah. At the end of it, selling and buying, that they're able to do. Otherwise, what I could say, general assessment, is that we are not where we were.
Yeah, pre UK DAP.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because now people are not nervous about using the platforms or ICT in their work. Yeah. Now we are better. But of course, we can be...
There's always room for improvement.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think the thing that's fascinating about all of this is that just from what you've shared, we are seeing impact in so many different areas. You've talked about information and knowledge seeking, capacity significantly increasing, increased market access. So yeah, I think there's quite a lot that's been achieved in a relatively short period of time. And I know that there's still a lot of space for us to scale that up and even reach other counties if possible. However, I wanted to talk to you about a partial project of yours that you oversaw. I know we worked very closely together in making sure that it came into fruition, but you're the one who had the vision and pushed it to where it is now. So talk to us briefly about the One Stop Shop platform, what it is, what it's trying to achieve, and how you've seen it grow to where it is at this point.
Thank you.
Yeah.
One thing as I get to the One Stop Shop, today you had farmers they were asked to go and register with the chiefs, administrative chiefs who are close to them, and they registered. I also did the same. And after a short while, the government said they want to bring subsidized fertilizer, and only people who are recorded and have taken registration will benefit from that. Some thought it is a hoax. It's not going to be. And today you are getting an SMS message telling you, Mr. Tom, you are benefiting from 2 bags, 3 bags, 4 bags, because they're small scale farmers, and or 10 or 15 depending, and you can get it from the nearest National Cereals and Produce Board depot, or otherwise anywhere else they have done that. Yeah. That's what farmers are reading. And when they go to the NCBB depot, what they're just doing, they're also getting their IDs, and then the information they have is entered, and it's the drone, and you cannot get anybody's fertilizer if it's not your phone and it's not your ID.
Yeah.
You can see. Now you can imagine if they are going to sit there and they are making lines and you don't know whether to go today or tomorrow. So that's one way I found. Even now in Laikipia, it has made it easier because we have the previous experience with using the ICT.
Yeah.
So coming to the one-stop shop, I remember our former CEC, Ms. Wangari, she came in, and as we are getting around, she said, how can we have all the produce of Laikipia being sold in one platform? When you do that, now you have done something. And I remember when you are learning the e-commerce models, we just said, yes, we can do it. And then we created this Facebook online market. We struggled with the name, we agreed. Admins, we agreed. Moderators, we agreed. Ethics, we also agreed. So we picked slowly. And remember, our aim was that by now, and I'm hoping we get to phase 3, is that it will be fully farmer-driven platform, because that's what we wanted. Because governments will come and go. We don't want people now to have shocks. Or this one's gone, this one has gone. So for now, I think that's the next thing that we have to do. So one-stop shop is that is a market platform for Laikipia produce. They be honey, they may be beef cattle, or sheep, or whatever you can sell from Laikipia. But from outside, you can be able to advertise your inputs. Yeah. So we told our farmers, whether in groups or individual, before you engage, validate who is buying from you or who you are buying from. Yeah. Do you have information about these people? So that again, they don't get down to people who can cause harm in terms of either not paying or paying. they can also cause harm to others, because if you post a photo of something that is not existing or is not the quality that you're showing, that can also not be good. They can kill the whole market for Laikipia or that industry. Again, there are rules of playing the game. In Facebook, if you do that, then you can be liable to
legal
action.
action.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we done that and we posted, and now almost everybody, you have a piece of tractor you want to sell, they're posting there.
Yeah.
If you have plows you want to sell, they're putting there. If you have somebody from outside, they have inputs they can do, for example, seedlings. There are now many of them who have come to post on that.
Yeah.
And you can connect, and all what they simply do is you order. Okay. Sometimes you may want to put a truck and hire to go to where they are selling. It is very expensive. So what they do is that they can organize transport for you for a small fee, and they deliver. You can pick them from where you are.
Where you are.
And you also said before, possibly doing that, you could send one person to go and verify what you're buying is also certified by KEFIS, because that's the body that certifies the plant materials that are used for planting. So that now has created that opportunity, and it is like the name says, Wakulima Market. It's like what you find in Wakulima here in Nairobi.
Yeah.
You kind of, all the produce are there. So the same thing, and it's very dynamic, and I am happy, and I want to say to Laikipia farmers and also the champion farmers and technical officers who are still active there to continue doing it, because every day you go, you find new posting coming and giving.
Yeah. And you've talked about just the importance of, creating an understanding from the very beginning. I know we spent a lot of time in making sure that was clear. And I'm glad to hear that everybody who comes there has that level of understanding of where I'm posting what I have. And when it comes to engagement, it's typically within the direct message platform. Because again, the worry that you always have with some of these third-party digital marketing platforms or online marketing platforms is that if you're not careful with the e-commerce models that you want implemented, then it becomes an issue of always just commenting. You're commenting. If you post something, instead of people hitting you directly in your messages, it's all about commenting on this is not. It's not what I wanted. It's too expensive. It's too cheap. And as much as it can be good feedback in different people's eyes, at the end of the day, it's not business that's taking place. So I'm glad to see that's something that seems to be embedded in everything that's going on within the space. You guys are at around 2,500. Any targets you're looking at going into phase 3? Probably 5,000 or even more.
Exactly.
So what's the target? If everything goes well,
we would expect it to be faster growth and adoption, because already we have the foundation. And why at the moment possibly could be not picking up as we would expect is possibly because we still need hand-holding. Because there are a few things that really people have to learn and understand. And also it create a more bigger critical mass that possibly can be able to be in every corner of the world and value chain players.
Yeah.
So I would expect it to be, if you ask me, not 3 times, that would be a bit too ambitious, maybe twice as much.
Okay.
And if we did that, because already, like you say, we have 5,000, if you put a multiplier effect of 5 doing 5, 5 doing 5, it will be much easier now, because again, many things now, from banking to marketing to government services, they are online. It will be easier for people now to embrace faster than it was before. Yeah.
So that's nice to hear. And again, I must commend you for the work that was done. 2,500 in a period of 2 years is not something that should be scoffed at, because we've had, believe me, in my space as an ICT for development expert, you have even social media platforms who are struggling to justify those numbers with significantly bigger budgets. So I think that's something that is worth celebrating as we go into phase 3. So finally, as we conclude the interview. You've been with the program from the very beginning, being a valuable resource to both ACWICT and the county government of Laikipia. So having witnessed the impact firsthand, what do you, or rather, what would you want to see going into the future, even beyond phase 3? What are some of the things you'd hope to see coming out of this particular engagement, and how can we make sure that we scale this up to the entire country?
Looking at Laikipia County, as you said earlier, if you look at 2,500 or even 20,000 against a population of about 450 or 500,000, and 3/4 of that population is agricultural dependent livelihoods, it is still small.
Yeah.
It is still small. But then the speed at which they're able to get reached by the information that they need for their agricultural practices is now faster.
Yeah.
It's now faster because you can get many people at the same time and more frequency. What I could call high impact, low cost technology.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we need now to see the county governments adopting and embracing it and becoming part and parcel. I would wish to see like Laikipia County, Nakuru County, and all 47 counties in Kenya,
Yeah.
in their integrated development plan, CIDP,
Yeah.
that they have a component that they are deliberately and dedicating resources towards ICT for agriculture and many other services for the government service, so that this becomes convenient.
Yeah.
And this is going to remove these corruption issues. For example, I had somebody who was in Odaya. Me, I'm in Laikipia. Somebody's in Odaya. And they met a relative of mine. And they talked to them and said, I don't know what I'll do. He said, why? I've lost 5 cows now. You know, somebody in Odaya, there is no indigenous animal. They are great animals. Okay. Then this relative of mine called me and said, please, I'm calling you because there's somebody, a friend of mine, who has a problem. I don't know how we're going to help her. I said, okay, let me hear. They gave me the number. I talked to this lady. She was literally crying, plus the husband. Say they have lost 5 cows, and that's what they do. And anybody who comes there to treat them, they do the wrong diagnosis and do the wrong treatment. And I believe that was a quack. So when I got the history, I called a friend of mine in the office, agriculture office in Mungere. And they connected me, and I gave them the contacts to this person. That very morning, that person had come to the farm, and they said they want to treat the animal that were called that yesterday was not feeling well. After injecting it, it only took about, I think, 5 or 6 minutes. It died again. So when I got this contact, I connected them to the office, and they got, I linked them to the office, and they got the history of the situation. This lady, after they talked and agreed, and I think that's what they agreed, she was advised. Next time, do's and don'ts. If you have this issue, call this officer, is in your area.
Yeah.
Leave these people. But remember, as she is doing so, 5 animals are
5 animals
are gone.
Yeah.
And they are high value. It is not the cost of these animals, but it is the worth they have in the family.
Yeah.
Because they produce milk, and that's what they depend on. Okay? So she called me later that evening. She was telling me, thank you. I don't know what I will do to you. Thank you. I said, just pray for me. I can leave. But one thing, we have something we call access to information on your phone.
Yeah.
If you could have done ABCD and you put your symptoms that you see in your cow, ask the Google machine, it will give you things that will be similar to what you're seeing, and possibly one of them or most of them, it will be what your animal is suffering, and they'll give you treatment.
Yeah, and with that, ask the community function that you've talked about.
Exactly.
It's easier to spread it out, as other experienced farmers, and then see what the feedback.
Yes, I also learned from Mr. Juma while we were doing the farmers learning days that since most of the farmers may not write, they can just highlight you on their WhatsApp, and then they press on the record button, take the photo, and then press that and give their story and send to you.
Yeah.
and equally then you do the same. You see, that makes it be easier. If this lady could have known that, she could not have fallen to this person's issue of losing the animals. So again, I was at a discussion with the Nyeri team, and FAO was interested in digital agriculture. Then he invited me online, and I said how Laikipia is doing, and why not Nyeri?
Yeah.
So not only for in the normal life, even in business, like you had said earlier, models, even in coffee, you can connect your coffee to somebody who is not in Kenya, and you can earn money.
Yeah.
Likewise, you can also know what are the standards. You do it on the same platform, and it is all on our phones, but you're not using that. So what I would wish to see is to see the county governments, and by extension the national governments, and the institutions that are mandated with the whatever regulations that they are supposed to be doing for the farmers and livelihoods in Kenya, that they deliberately factor inputs to enable this mode of communication and operations, the way of doing business. Because one thing is real time, it's also, you also benefit from the recent, if it's the research or undertakings that are already existing. If it's reporting, you can report immediately to the responsible authorities without you passing anybody in between. You can also be able to clear off a lot of value added costs that are not necessary, and you go straight to the person who can consume. But alternatively, also you can also find yourself, if you're not careful, falling on traps. So farmers also have to be, and community have to be cautioned on precautions and risks that are also involved, particularly in bullying. Because sometimes somebody would see it's an old man, it's a young lady, it's a reason they can also intimidate them very much. Since we have no control, we also have to tell them some of the precautions you do. We don't have to react, but keep off. Don't sell to people you don't know. Don't agree to contracts that you're not sure about. Always ask and validate now physically and online if anybody has any history of that kind of thing. But all said and done, I think we are better off than we were before.
Yeah. And you brought up something that's very important as we conclude, and that's the importance of just making sure that all county governments intentionally integrate this into their CIDP program, because that's the other thing that I saw lacking from there was a recent county we were engaging with. I think it's Kisumu. They gave us an opportunity to integrate our digital skilling agenda into the county integrated development plan. And so in the meeting, we talked about the DSA program, and they are so excited. But I think the issue is that they had a deadline of, I think, that a week's worth of a deadline. So they weren't able to put together the people, especially from the Ministry of Agriculture, that we needed to be able to pitch to them. So I don't know if it's still open. I'm assuming that just from the engagement we had with them, most of them have already submitted. But it can be something that can be looked at, and integrated in time, because I'm picturing even an opportunity for some of the key players within DSA to doing a national tour and talking to these county governments about what the program has been able to achieve and what integrating it into their CIDP might mean. Because as you've said again, you don't want to keep depending on donor partners to be able to have these programs running. We can be able to work with government, key stakeholders within the private sector as well, and make sure that we do it here without any sort of pressure on timelines. So
integrating in the county integrated development plan is very critical. Because it's a 5 years plan for the county. But again, I know it is also progressive. They can still do that.
Oh, they can still.
Yes, the issue that will be there is not putting something new. Is that they already earmarked resources, and they always going to say they are constrained. That's the issue. CIDP is progressive document. You can still develop it as you go. The question is, even what already is existing, possibly they have no finances for doing it. But for me, I would imagine that the best way to do is that we have service providers and actors in the value chains. Bring them on board, right? In the private sector, support them with good policies.
Yeah.
For example, if you're able to connect this area with your network, and you pay this amount of money for licenses, you can give an incentive of saying, you'll do this, but this one will be free from paying.
Yeah.
Right? So that comes in. The next thing is, every service provider may want to pass skills to the farmers or to the consumers.
Yeah.
They're very easily gonna take their people and integrate others who are related, the kind of governments, into the departments that are relevant, and be able to support that kind of training.
Yeah.
And once you have done that, create hotspots like Mawingu does, put masks like Airtel do or Safaricom, and then because the community, you can imagine you have about 3,000-4,000 people. If all those people, or even 50% of them, are able to use your network, it's going to pay. Because this mast is not a one-time thing, it's a long-term investment.
Yeah.
It opens, even most likely to even go to unintended areas of assistance that were not there. Think about security. Although then they can also be anti, but the fact is that if it happens, that the community comes very fast.
Yeah.
You can imagine your 10 households dispersed within 3-4 kilometers, and you have a network. So if it strikes, you put everyone on alert at the same time, and there you go. If then you get a buyer who wants to buy animals, for example, or food crops, or cereals or grains, you just need one farmer to know, this is what the quota they want. Me, I have 10 bags, you have 5 kilos, put them together. The point of aggregation is here. So the buyer will come and buy from here. So to me, that becomes one thing that the county government will see. And once that is happening, even the revenue for county government increases.
Yeah, increases.
Because if you buy or sell anything, then you're able to pay for cess.
Yeah.
Today it's not being paid because it's going to be unnoticed. But now you're telling farmers, yes, you do it here, I'll do you a marketplace. Invest money. This is the point that you do aggregation. And then when you come, there's a cess that you pay. Maybe you pay, like for livestock, for example, when you are selling a cow, the buyer pays 100 bob. I don't know whether it has changed now. And the seller pays 100 bob. Those are 200 bob. Today there are many people we don't capture because they are selling alongside. So farmers will lose money because the prices are low. Yeah. County government will lose money because they're not getting revenue. And then they are not also investing to attract. Yeah. So for me, I would like the county governments, to invest deliberately. Don't put it among, if the money is available, let it be a key thing. Yeah. Because it's going to connect many other departments together.
Yeah. And create other financial opportunities.
Exactly.
I think, moving forward.
Exactly.
I think this was a very insightful discussion, Mr. Mungere. Thank you very much. You know, it's very rare to get somebody who has your level of experience and also willing to share ideas on how we can be able to improve what's a very big contributor to our GDP. So I'm very thankful and appreciative for what you've shared. And maybe just before we conclude, I know our colleague Lucy had some FAQs from staff members and beneficiaries of the program who are interested in going into agriculture. So, yeah, maybe Lucy.
So thank you, Thomas, for this educative session. Having Mungere around, it was very important. And when I just informed the colleagues and our beneficiaries, some of our beneficiary, majority of them are also farmers or even youths who are also looking into getting into farming. When I told them that we are going to have an expert today, they were very interested, and I have some of the questions that they had put forward so that they can get some insights from Mungere. And I'll just go direct to the question. And Bwana Mungere, the first question goes, how does digital agriculture impact sustainable farming practices?
The word is sustainable. Sustaining. Yes, in several ways. But the biggest one I've seen is that people have known how to source for certified planting material suitable for their area. That now is no doubt, unless somebody possibly has not been reached. But for the 2,150, 500,000 that we have sensitized already, they have known where to source their planting or breeding material. Others have known the agricultural practices that is climatically adopted with this climate change. Other groups have known to source for comparative market prices from platforms, even before they go into that production. Others have inquired even from potential markets if they did the crops or animals or milk for them, whether they could buy and what could be a contractual price for them. Others have known how to reach out to the extension or the value chain actors who could be relevant to assist them in their production and in good practices. And overall is that use of their phones to access the platforms through the ICT at the comfort of their home, what you call the tech for farmers, and ICT skills for farmers, now it's getting roots into many of these farmers. Then they can be able to query themselves before they enter into whatever enterprise, or even before they call the extension officers. Some of them are able to solve some of the basic issues that they encounter, whether negative or positive, because use of ICT and use of the device like phones, they're able to reach out to the necessary assistance they require on time, and they get the real messages. So anybody who wants to venture into agriculture, particularly the young people, they have an advantage because they are friendly with the phones, and they can be able to use the phones for whatever good questions they can ask. And they have told people it's good to have that. So today, it is not like yesterday.
Yeah, sure.
It is easier now.
Yeah.
It is easier.
Okay, and I think you have mentioned one important thing, and I just checked on my question, and I also saw it there. You've talked about agricultural extension officers, and I think it was one farmer who asked through our staff that how do I reach out to an agricultural extension officer? What are the processes?
I don't know whether to say unfortunately or fortunately. Today, extension is demand driven. Just like you go to hospital because you are sick, you look for these officers because you need their services. That's the most unfortunate part of it, because a farmer may not have air, they may not have possibly enough airtime to give a story of what they're doing. But ideally, previously, is that the extension officers were allocated what we call a cluster, farm families, right? And they could visit them during land preparation, during planting, or livestock issues that are within the season. And they were sure. If you remember, even at homes, if you remember, like AI, they used to have small crashes that an AI officer could pass there, whether there is animal or no animal, they could still pass there. Today, you call. And again, that service now is being privatized. So the only thing the government does is to license and regulate. So ideally, previously the officers were going to the farmers. Today, it is the farmers coming to the extension officer. One of the reasons why it is like that, if you remember the structural adjustment, 1992, I think around there, 1997, there was a freezing of employment of civil servants. That gap, even today, is still being experienced. So they were less. They have to be physical. They have to go on leave. They have to rest. There is rain, they cannot work. There is hot sun, they cannot do this. Same to farmers. So going for farmers to get the extension officer and extension officer going to the farmers, it is now more difficult than it was before. The cost of doing that is too high, either way. And the government is not able to support that kind of thing. But if you have issues, the idea now, go to the extension officer. Now, if you go, you may not meet him there, or he may not be available for you. So you see what that means. You have wasted money, you have wasted the whole day, you go back home annoyed, and you're upset, and that kind of thing. So demand-driven agriculture is not good for underserved and marginalized farmers. But for large-scale farmers, they have no issues because the value chain actors who have inputs, you'll get into them. They'll reach them and follow them. But for small-scale farmers, who are the majority in Kenya and producing food that we eat, are disadvantaged by that kind of approach.
Okay, thank you. And
It's bleak.
yeah, actually,
1992.
yeah. But again, with the digital agriculture, maybe some of the problems that used to make farmers want to reach to them, they end up even knowing how to solve it.
Actually, what we said with Tom previously before you came in is that the ratio for extension officer ideal is something like one extension officer, agricultural extension officer is 1 to a ratio of between 1,500 at most. But today, it is about 6,000. Okay? Then we said, like what I have alluded earlier, one extension officer can deal with 1 million farmers within an hour using ICT. That's the difference.
And then another question is, what government, now that Bwana Mungere, you're somebody who has been into the government, you've served for quite some years, we would want to hear this from you. What government policies and programs provide support for business in digital agriculture? Maybe people who are aspiring to get into it want to know some of these policies and programs.
Well, there are a number of policies, and you see, the national government, under the Constitution 2010, under the schedule, I think schedule 4, schedule 6 there, is that like the devolved functions, the national government is left only to do policy, regulations, and research. So the rest of extension or day-to-day business is left to the county. So take the case of agriculture. The county government cannot bring a new regulation. They only domesticate what the national government has. Because it is mandated to do that, it has machinery to do so. Otherwise, then every county, if you leave it like that, some will say we are uprooting coffee. And you know what coffee means to this country in terms of foreign exchange. Eh? Others may say we don't want to vaccinate cows. You know what it means when these markets are not there and people have to sell. Others will bring something. So for the national outlook, policies are made at the national level. And some of them, when you look are to do with the research, to do with marketing, to do with the extension as well, and to do about inputs. So there are several of them. And once the county has received those, because it is also the role of the national government to ensure the county receives those ones, then they domesticate. They can now do small adjustments with the county assemblies to make sure they fit the situation of every county. Because Laikipia is not like Meru, it's not like Nairobi, it is not like Isiolo. But overall, we are all tied by one regulation that is there. For example, when you look at animal disease and control, that is national. So that if you are moving an animal from point A to point B, you must get a movement permit. Okay? And this movement permit is triggered by a no objection from the destination where the animal is going. So if there are disease on this end, no animal to enter. If there are disease on this end, no animals to move out and animal products. So that regulates. The other one is also like slaughtering, for example. You must ensure every animal that is slaughtered must be slaughtered in a facility that is government regulated. And that meat must be inspected by a government officer, not a private person, to ensure that what we call zoonotic diseases, then the diseases that can get human and also are transmitted by livestock are not transmitted, to make sure that happens. Also to control theft. Otherwise then I steal from Tom and then I come and slaughter, do like that. The other one is also animal identification. At the moment now, I don't know how far it has gone, we are used to seeing animals being marked on the skin. They are banned, making what kind of thing that you think you identify that animal with you. With the pastoralist, animals from cows to camels They have almost like 3 identification, and they are all by burning the skin with brands. One that is for the family, one for the clan, and one for the bigger region. So you see this animal, it is for this. Even if you don't know the family, you can know which clan and which region. So what you're doing now, because there's a regulation, you have to register those brands. And those ones that are done at home cannot be registered because there are standards, size, and what have you. We are now moving to what you call electronic identification of animals. You can use ear chips, microchips. You can use electronic ear tags, like that. And they are registered, and custody is given to the national government, county government. Those kind of things. Cape fees is another one, that you don't have to bring plants from anywhere. So there are those kind of regulations that are there, and policies. And it's only those national bodies who are authorized to undertake that.
That's a very rich subject, I think.
I even didn't know about that.
Yeah.
I've also benefited from the same.
Yeah.
And maybe finally, just to wrap up, talking about our beneficiaries, talking about our reach, which is mostly now lining on youth. So I wanted just to ask, how can we involve youth in the agricultural value chain? This is just your perspective, maybe what you think can be done. Yeah, it's not a...
I'm interested to hear this.
You see, number one, if you go to colleges that train professionals in agriculture, the number is getting down and down. Because they are the same young people you're talking about. They don't want to be trained there because they look around when they're in school, secondary or primary, when they are going to be punished, they'll go to the shamba to dig. So they develop negative attitude from that what go. When you are in primary school, even in secondary school, most of the skills I have today, I learned when I was in secondary because I did it from Form 1 to Form 4. And it was hands-on. Hands-on. So every egg that you are going to eat in the school is coming from the farm. And we had duties. Every milk you're drinking or tea must come from the animals. Animals have to be fed. That's how we learned it, not in form of a punishment. So that, again, we need to change that kind of area that people don't see it like a punishment. Again, when you go home, you possibly see your father and mother struggling from day to day, and you don't find them. And they look like symbol of poverty. That's another attitude that you have to change. But then, for the youth that we are now having, now as we talk, I see them very active at the end of the value chain in marketing. Yes. They're able to get out like horticulture. Horticulture, they're even growing. Actually, they are the majority, almost predominantly young people. Number one, horticulture takes a maximum of 3 months. That's young people want quick money. So it's also labor intensive. So the young people are also involved in that kind of production. But when you come to things like take 6 months, 1 year, you find them at the end of the value chain. Yeah. But now here, we also have to identify in those areas which value chain where they play. They want to play at the end. You have produced, they know somebody buying, they connect you, they get what they're getting. But for horticulture, they are getting it from growing up to selling. But you have also told them they can get an option now that we have the digital agriculture, that they can do it on behalf of the older folks, and they're able to get information that they can be able to give up to selling and up to either buying or selling of inputs and products. And probably they can create employment because maybe they can say, you are selling, today you sell this at 10 bob or 20 bob. We have a market that can buy 40 bob. So the extra, I'll get 10 bob out of that, and the rest I'll give you. So that will be employment. The other one is they're also very critical in terms of transportation, getting these things from the farm. Because they put crates for tomato, for French beans, or even maize, or even milk in cans. I have seen some who are buying from the farmers, but they take to processors like Brookside or KCC, and they appear like the ones who have produced. So it is them who have the number, right? You get it? Others are now in that transportation. They transport milk in the morning. They they wash the cans. They go to their normal business of the day with their motorbikes. In the evening, they are taking back the cans and maybe some of the inputs that are required. And that is a very critical area. It's a secondary area, but it's also very critical. And the youth are there to do that. Otherwise, marketing, they're okay. Short-term crops, 3 months, 2 months. I was also thinking possibly they can also get into finishing and fattening of animals, because that takes about 2 months. They can aggregate, and then they can be able to put them together, feed them with crop residues for 3 months. They're able to sell at the end of it. And possibly they could make the cost of production and the cost of buying, the difference is reasonable. They could make 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 per animal for just that period. Remember, in between, when they're finishing the animals, there's labor involved. So people also getting employed and getting some income from that.
Sure. That has been very insightful, and I'm very sure everybody has learned through. So thank you, Mungere. Thank you, Thomas, as well, for the session. It has been really an opportunity and a platform to learn.
So thank you very much, Lucy. Thank you again, Mr. Mungere, for creating the time to come and share with us so much information and knowledge about technology's place in agriculture. And for everybody who gets a chance to listen to this, give it the time that it deserves. It's a wonderful listen. It's very informative, very knowledgeable. And for more episodes on the same, tune in to or subscribe to our channel on YouTube and catch us on social media. You know, our handle is ACWICT, ACWICT, across all platforms. So catch us there and let's keep having this conversation. Thank you very much. Goodbye.